Hey y'all, I'm Lara Luna, and this is episode 4 of Trailer Park Angel. Today, I'll be sharing another part of a chapter from my book. But let's first start on a very special day, when a new woman showed up in our park. She had purchased the cute little mobile home on lot 222. It was Halloween, and most yards were decorated with their own brand of creepy. From a zombie gnome to Mr. Earl's naked fat mermaid smoking a cigar, this park became known as the Circus of Strange. And we were the best place to go to see the most disturbing decorations in town. How embarrassing. But back to the new person. The most frightening thing about her so far was watching her back a U-Haul up her driveway. We were all praying she wouldn't take out the carport, and luckily she didn't. Instead, she screeched to a halt with just an inch to spare, got out of the truck, and then spent the next 10 minutes crying over a box of broken garden gnomes. How do I know this? Because a bunch of us with nothing to do were watching her move in, because that's what you do in a 55-plus community. She looked like she might have been from Morocco, or maybe one of those desert towns out west where people wear turquoise rings and never age. She arrived wearing a long, flowy dress, big earrings, and a stare that could see straight through your soul. We didn't know her name, and she didn't tell us either. So naturally, the ladies' wine night crew got curious. Miss Dottie said, well, let's just invite her to the Oasis and see what she's about. So we did. And that's when we met Miss Esmeralda. She walked in holding a mason jar full of moonshine and a dish of magical deviled eggs. Said she left them under the full moon to activate the third eye. Savannah popped one in her mouth, leaned back with her eyes closed, and after a long dramatic pause said, I just had a vision of the Army Ranger taking down the skunk ape. Somebody's got more than just psychic abilities kicking in, if you know what I mean. She's also been caught thinking about him doing something heroic, chopping wood, lifting hay bales, fixing a generator without a shirt on, etc. I don't think that vision came from the eggs. But just to be sure, she grabbed another one and said, maybe they help you see what you really want. I just looked at her and said, Roger. Turns out, Esmeralda's a psychic medium, the crystal ball kind, with fake nails and a neon sign that says open 24 hours. She reads cards, sees spirits, and rents a booth down at the local flea market every weekend. That's when us ladies got an idea. We packed up the golf cart and made a trip to check out Miss Esmeralda's flea market booth. We found her at the last table in the news section, right near Mr. Henry, who sells all the guns and ammo. She wouldn't be alone for long, and will regret that spot, because everyone who knows Mr. Henry knows you don't sit next to him unless you're ready for a 3-hour monologue. He usually talks about conspiracy theories, UFO abductions, and his foot problems, which can be gross, to say the least. She was alone and wearing a purple robe with tinsel in her bun and a boho wrap that said, Morocco by way of QVC. You ever seen a psychic dressed like a Christmas ornament? That was her. We came with purpose, sweet tea in hand, ready to soak it all in. It was a slow shuffle through a busy flea market where the air smelled like kettle corn, sweaty armpits, and a whole lot of weird. We got our first glimpse at the woo-woo table. There was a ton of flavored incense, troll dolls with rhinestone belly buttons lined up like a little army, and a worn-out magic 8-ball that only said, Outlook not so good, no matter what you asked. Mood rings that changed colors, blacklight posters of Bob Marley and dolphins, a stack of unopened chia pets, because why not, and a lava lamp that looked like it was having a nervous breakdown. And sitting right there on the edge of the table, like the cherry on top of this mystical yard sale, a velvet Elvis painting, glitter and all, propped up like it was holy scripture. We stood sipping our sweet tea, taking it all in, and quietly daring each other to be the first to go up and get a reading. She told us she had been to Morocco, also Sedona, Arizona, and Cassadaga, Florida, which, for those who aren't familiar, is the psychic capital of the world. It's like Disney, but for mediums and people who are so psychic, they can tell you what your great-grandma had for lunch last Tuesday. So we invited her to a second night at the Oasis, the official wine night, the kind only members attend. That evening, she arrived right on time, wearing glitter Crocs, carrying a bottle of elderberry wine, and handing each of us a gift. We were gifted real, vintage troll dolls. Each one was unique. Mine had purple hair, Dottie's had orange, Savannah's was pink, and Ginger's yellow with a handmade leopard print bow. Miss Tammy was there, and she said, under her breath, "That's creepy. Who gives out trolls from 1970 as a gift anyway?" We gave her gifts too. Ginger gave fuzzy animal print pajamas that said, "I am blessed," and a prayer candle that smelled like tequila. Dottie, our forever Marine, gave her binoculars and a can of mace because you never know. And Savannah, forgot her gift and just blurted out, "So, have you ever seen a skunk ape in real life?" I nearly choked on my sangria. Miss Esmeralda just smiled and said, "Let me tell you what I saw." She had a vision before she moved into this park. A hog, the one from last episode, the one the sheriff and Navy guy were hunting, being picked up by something tall and hairy and carried off into the woods. "Dinner for the whole family," she said, sipping her wine. Well, that was enough to give Dottie flashbacks. Savannah got excited and said she was going to book a palm reading. Miss Ginger said she liked Esmeralda's fashion sense and wanted to go shopping together. And Miss Tammy, well, she kind of just sat there with her arms crossed, convinced Esmeralda was either a scammer or a witch. She's not big on surprises, especially if they come in the form of psychic visions and 1970s trolls. And I just sat there next to Stan the Man, taking notes. That night after Miss Esmeralda left the party, us girls wanted to go check on lot 222. We met back at the Oasis at 10 p.m. This event called for the coolest transport in the park, the Neon Ninja, painted in bright pink with a lift kit and purple flowers. It was known as the Wine Night Wrecking Machine. It had a lithium battery and extra suspension so we could go off-road and be sneaky if we had to. We were about to drive by lot 222 when we noticed it was decorated with a spotlight, shining stars on the house, wind chimes shaped like little UFOs, and more lawn ornaments than a Cracker Barrel. But these weren't flamingos. Nope. She had a life-size resin gnome riding a llama, and what we swear was a beautiful mermaid with her middle finger sticking up. Then we saw movement in the window, a shadow, then another. Miss Esmeralda wasn't alone. Her house was on the left side of the street, and just as we were about to turn the corner, Savannah tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to the right. "What's that?" she whispered, pointing to a bush. Miss Dottie slowed the cart down, and I grabbed my flashlight and shined it right where she was pointing. At first, I couldn't tell what I was looking at, but then I saw it. Feet. Actually, 4 feet. 2 sets of them. Now I know what y'all are thinking. One set of feet had on snake boots. The other had on pickleball sneakers. That's when I knew exactly who it was. It was the sheriff and the Navy guy hiding behind the bush, trying to be an Army Ranger in disguise. We stopped the cart, climbed out, and walked over with our flashlights. I said, "Hey, what are you two doing?" The sheriff whispered, "Don't blow our cover." I said, "Cover? What cover?" They said, "We're just watching." "Watching what? You hunting for the skunk ape again?" "No," they said. "We're watching that new woman, whatever her name is." I said, "Lord Almighty, why does this always happen when someone moves into this park? If it's a single woman, she's got 11 dates by next week. And if it's a single man, he's got the whole park asking him if he could fix things like clogged sinks and toilets." I told the sheriff, "She seems harmless." He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Harmless? That's what they all say, right before your extra flashlights go missing." You ever notice retired sheriffs and flashlights go together like biscuits and gravy? I swear, if there's a retired sheriff around, you can bet they've got at least 3 flashlights, 1 in the truck, 1 in the house, and 1 they swear they always keep in their boot, just in case. The Navy guy crinkled his Slim Jim wrapper and said, "We don't need any more problems around here. We already got 1. We're still trying to figure out that 10-foot tall thing we saw in the woods." He started shaking just thinking about it. Then he says, I gotta go back home. I gotta go." And just like that, he took off and left the sheriff by himself on the Roscoe P. Coltrane stakeout. Now this salty dog picked up the sport of pickleball about 3 weeks ago. Ever since then, he's been wearing the same tennis sneakers like they were glued to his feet. I don't even think they have soles left, just memories. He wears them to the court, to breakfast, and once I caught him wearing them in the pool. He's been paired up with one of the sweetest ladies in the park. Real proper, the kind who labels her Tupperware. But the scuttlebutt is, there's a little more going on than pickleball. Wouldn't be the first time doubles turned into troubles. Now to give you the full picture, he's 72, proudly retired Navy, and still thinks he's God's gift. He's got a new woman over just about every other weekend. Built solid, walks like he's still on deck, and says he can't fathom slowing down. And based on his dating schedule, I'd say he hasn't even tried. Said he used to live in the Villages. And every single one of us in that room went, "Oh, that explains it." Because if you've been to the Villages, you already know. Golf carts with flames, happy hour 3 times a day, rumors of swinger socials, and more STDs floating around than a college dorm on spring break. And don't even get me started on what he eats. The man runs on black coffee, gadunk, and nerve. Probably hasn't touched a veggie since 1994. But here's the part that stopped me. I was watching him one morning, half flirting, half swinging that paddle, when I glanced at the scoreboard and saw 222 light up clear as day. Meanwhile, back at the Sirens and Sea Dogs stakeout, I looked at the sheriff and said, "Well, is this what retirement looks like now? Hiding behind bushes in the moonlight?" He goes, "I keep looking in the window and I swear she's got other people in there." I said, "Those are not people. They're spirits. She's a psychic medium. It's probably folks she's helping cross over." It was kind of like that scene from the movie Ghost, the one with Whoopi Goldberg, surrounded by the paranormal at the seance table. Let me tell you, it's not always easy dealing with people from the other side, especially when they're still stuck in the past. Us ladies just about had enough of this freak show, so we headed back to the oasis, only to find Miss Esmeralda waiting for us in the lanai. How did she get there so fast without us seeing her? And who really are those people in her house? She said, I just had to tell you why I moved here. We were all ears. She told us Lot 222 called to her every night in her dreams for months. She also said she had to follow the signs, and that led her to Lot 222. I said, you know what that number means? She smiled and said, yes, I do. Balance, alignment, and confirmation. This is now the time when I share with you a part of the chapter from my book, titled 222, Balance, Trust, and Divine Timing. Angel number 222 is often a message to slow down, breathe, and come back into balance. It shows up when you're being guided to trust the process, especially when things feel uncertain or unclear. This number is like a soft whisper from your angels reminding you you're not alone. Stay the course. The spiritual meaning. 222 carries the energy of harmony and cooperation. It often appears when you're learning how to work with others or with the universe itself in a more trusting way. It's a number that supports healing, forgiveness, and emotional clarity. And just like that, Miss Esma was in. Now, I won't say the woods are cursed, but Esmeralda said there's more than one of those creatures, and the hog won't be back. And someone else in the park knows what's going on, but he won't talk. Our guess is the Army Ranger. He only comes out when there's a full moon, meat raffles, or karaoke by the pool. Anyway, next morning, Miss Millie dropped off newsletters and gossip in one go. And just like that, Esmeralda was now fully initiated into our 55-plus community. Welcome to the neighborhood. Next time, we might be talking about the HOA secret meeting, or that fat turkey incident with Miss Tammy and Miss Butter, who claims it's an emotional support bird. Until then, keep your lawn flamingos honest. Don't feed the skunky. And remember, don't underestimate how bright you really are. Because if you believe in yourself and call on your angels when you need to, the light in you will be so bright, everyone around you will need sunglasses. Hey, thanks for listening, and thanks for your time. Hope to see you all again real soon. Look for the podcast every Tuesday and Friday, and some unexpected extras that'll make you smile. Bye!